Welcome back to Tabletop Assault. I'm Ross, and today I'm going to continue my segments on analysing the Chaos Space Marine Codex. Today I'm going to look at Obliterators. Now, Obliterators are sort of interesting unit, one I have used many times in a couple of different editions now, and they have significantly changed in terms of their uses from, say, going from 7th to 8th, mainly due to their sort of weapon loadout and how they work, where in previous they used to be armed with a whole assortment of weapons, and I think power fists as well. They have now sort of simplified that to a degree, we'll talk about that later, on terms of what they actually are armed with. So how these work is that basically I'm going to have a look at the unit in the codex, have a look at stats, have a look at the weapons that can be used, any options that are available, and special abilities. After that, I have a look at sort of loadout and role suggestion and how to use these guys. I then look at Legion traits if applicable, psychic abilities that might be of use, and finally stratagems that I would recommend with them as well. So with that, let's have a look at Obliterators. So Obliterators have a movement of 4, which is ludicrously slow, almost Poxwalker level. Not the biggest issue for them because these guys do not want to get in combat, but equally there's one other weakness as well that does mean that's kind of significant as well. Weapon skill 3+, now these guys really don't want to be in combat, so that's no problem. Bliss skill 3+, so really nice, you're kind of sort of standard marine, so having a 3+ means they're fairly reliable to hit. Strength 5, which is nice if they were combat orientated. Toughness 4, which I am devastated by. I would have really loved to see Obliterators at toughness 5 to allow them to endure small arms fire a wee bit more, though they do have an impressive save. We'll go into that in a second. But toughness 4 does hurt a wee bit. Wounds 3, which is impressive and good to give them a good bit of sturdiness. Attacks 3, which would be nice if they still retained their power fist, but they do not, which is a bit of a shame. Leadership 8, which is not so much of an issue. I believe that unless psychic or stratagems lower their leadership further, they shouldn't ever fail a morale test because they come in a unit of 3. So the only way to fail is if all 3 actually die or someone lowers it through other means, which there's possibilities. And a 2+ save. So that gives them a lot of survivability as well, especially from small arms fire from that nefarious toughness 4. But having 3 wounds and 2+ save really means they can take a couple of hits. In terms of the weapons, they only have 1 now instead of the plethora of different weapons. This is their Fleshmetal guns. Now these are range 24, which is far shorter than I would like them to actually be. They are assault 4, so that's quite nice. They do get loads of shots each, meaning a unit of 3 will be putting out 12 shots. And they are assault, so there's no problems with moving. And if you do decide to advance, you can still fire, but you're lowering accuracy. This is where they get a bit strange. They are strength 6 plus D3, so you add D3 to the strength. Their AP is D3, so you roll again. And their damage is D3. I'm going to talk about that a lot. Be a lot of randomness in terms of their efficiency on that one. They have Death to the False Emperor, which means, I'll try not to go into detail, but basically if you fight an Imperium unit in combat, any 6s plus to hit, you get an extra attack, which is nice, but I really don't want to Obliterators in combat. They have Fleshmetal guns, so how these work is when a unit of Obliterators chosen to shoot in the shooting phase or in Overwatch, so it's important to say that activates when they're chosen to shoot. I'll talk about that in a minute, well not in a minute, but when we get to stratagems why that's important. So when they're chosen to shoot in the shooting phase or Overwatch, roll 3d3 one after another. The first roll is added to 6 to determine the strength of the unit shooting's attack, second is the AP, and the third is the damage. For example, if you roll 1 followed by 3 followed by 2, the unit's attack would be strength 7 minus the AP and 2 damage for the shooting. So a lot of random there in terms of their efficiency with their gun, which I'll go into what my thoughts are on that later, but that's roughly how it goes, is 3d3, strength, AP and damage to work out their efficiency with their gun. They are demonic, so they have, Obliterators have a 5-up invul, which is okay. Again, I'll talk about that in detail. And teleport strike, during deployment you can set this up this unit in the teleportarium chamber instead of placing on the battlefield. At the end of your movement phase, the unit can use teleport strike to arrive in the battlefield. Set it up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches away from the enemy unit. So basically they have Deep Strike, which I think we're kind of familiar of. Obviously we now have the beta rules and the second rendition of reserves now. And again, I'll talk about that when I'm talking about the rule. But obviously beta rules are having big adjustments on units that do come in from reinforcements. So that's Obliterators. On the Codex, I'm now going to speak quite a wee bit on my details of what I think of them. So beginning with sort of loadout and suggested rules. So Obliterators are pretty simple in terms of loadout because they only have their Fleshmetal guns. However, this is a complex gun which frankly you cannot truly depend on. Having a random strength, AP and damage makes these guys a little bit tricky and frankly a little bit unreliable. All 3 rolls going well can give you strength 9, minus 3 AP and 3 damage per shot on 12 shots. And this will put the fear into all but the toughest of units, and that sort of makes me, if you do get these great rolls, it will make me sort of favour targeting multi-target models, especially vehicles and things like that. Things are quite tough and have loads of wounds, and if you strip the AP off, then they would fear it. This is all good when you do get good rolls, but it takes only one of these to go badly, to potentially cause all the shots to really be a wee bit wasted. The strength is fairly reliable. Strength 7 is still not bad, strength 8 is where you really want to be, and strength 9 is good. It all really depends on the target, but it's when you get to AP and damage is where these guys can absorb command rerolls like nothing, really badly. Have a bad AP and units can basically sort of, shrug those shots off their armour, have poor damage, and those wounds just won't do the damage that you hope them to do. They'll just basically scratch the opponent rather than actually doing the huge amount of damage. I think I once put 3 rounds of Obliterators firing into either a hammerhead or a devilfish or something, and I was barely able to even scratch the paintwork. And I mean 3 rounds of firing them, and I think I used stratagems to improve them further, and they just couldn't do it. So in that case, some rolls were good. I was like getting either high strength or high damage, but then maybe the AP was too low and then the saves were too good that they basically couldn't connect. So it's that whole, you need all 3 to be successful to really guarantee you do what these guys really want to do. Equally, these guys can also be a threat to elite units, especially ones with either heavy firepower or good combat capabilities. I'm looking at things like Primaris, Stern Guard, Devastators, Havocs, things like that as well, where they can potentially, damage these guys. They don't even need a high strength or damage to particularly do quite well. The main thing you probably want is AP to connect so you can get through their armour, but really depends on the unit that you are targeting. I tend to be tempted by heavier targets. I pray to the Dark Gods for good rolls on all of them, and that way I can really sort of rip a unit apart. But I'm now looking at Obliterators and going, maybe I need to shift my perspective of them and start targeting more elite units, because they should. I don't need all the rolls to go successfully. Mainly I kind of just need the AP one and maybe the damage one to be mediocre for them to really make some good damage. When you go after heavy things, you can get a big reward, but you need all of them to do really well. Now I'm going to talk about the beta rules here. Now we've sort of steered clear of the beta rules. We didn't really use them beforehand because they were still beta, they were not official, so we wanted to try and keep the official rules. Now that we're into the second round of this beta rule, I think it's kind of evident that we kind of have to embrace it on this channel. So, it's clear that the rules concerning reinforcements are leaning towards only arriving on turn 2. I mean, they changed Alpha Legion, Raven Guard and Synergies 8 quite significantly, and I think maybe another one to affect this quite a lot. Like they changed the rule entirely to sort of mitigate this sort of turn 1 charge malarkey, you know, and I used it a few times as well, which is, you know, going this route of, you know, you can only bring in reinforcements turn 2 is what we kind of had in previous editions. You know, that's when Deep Strikers came in, was turn 2. So we're getting back to where we were previously. I did write a big part discussing this because it's the first time I'm sort of discussing the beta rules, and then I realised that, you know, I was just discussing the beta rules and not Obliterators. So either way, this is the direction GW are going with when it comes to reinforcements, and so I'm going to talk with that in mind. Obliterators have a really short range of 24 inches, you know, for what these guys do. You know, they are a ranged unit. Seeing as these guys do not want to be in combat, and that's what makes them really vulnerable. They do have deep strike, which means they can get into a position reliably. However, we are now sacrificing shooting in turn 1 to do so. In previous times, I've usually kept these in deep strike so I can put them in a reliable position, but now sacrificing turn 1 to shoot is quite a sacrifice to do so. When it comes to deployment, it's going to depend on your opponent, I think. These guys can sit in your deployment, I feel, but if they do so, they need to get into a better position and set up shop. Wait until turn 2 to let them determine where your opponent is going to be in counter. Setting up can be better in certain situations as well. If you think your opponent's going to come towards you, then yeah, maybe it's okay. You know, if you're facing an opponent that's quite, you know, advanced towards you heavy, yeah, maybe it might be good to set these guys up in the back line and fire. Hopefully your opponent will come towards you, but equally with 24-inch guns and 4-inch movement, they're not very fast, and it only takes your opponent to be quite clever with their movement to really mitigate these guys from being able to shoot, which is all but devastating. You can advance with them to sort of get into a better position, but you sacrifice accuracy for that. So when it comes to these, I'm really stuck between now sort of deep striking in and getting into an absolute key position where they can be really good, or sticking in the back line to fire, but means you will struggle to reach your opponent's back line as well. It's a difficult one. I have not play tested really sticking in the back line with the Obliterators much. And I've not tested them having to wait till turn 2 now because I've not played one of the beta rules yet, though I'm just about to start now. I think this weekend I'm filming a whole bunch of battle reports. I think one of them's of Chaos, so maybe it might fit in there. But we're gonna see what happens there. Obliterators used to be a very, very, you know, easy turn 1, drop in, find a position and start gunning. Now it's a bit trickier on what to call, and I would love to hear your view on that. Thing to know with these guys is that they really do love rerolls when firing. Having a Jump Lord or Terminator nearby to reroll ones is really helpful. Also having them nearby, you know, a Jump Lord or a Terminator Lords nearby does give them close combat protection, because the last thing you want is Obliterators to be charged. The 24-inch gun is short, and if they are sort of on their own, and I've had this happen to me many times, you try and put your Obliterators in a unit in an area that they're going to cause threat, your opponent will probably dive in to try and throw something at them to hold them back in combat, because once they're in, without something assisting them, they're going to be trying to fall back and they're not going to do much good. Strength 5 is nice, the attacks is okay, no AP in combat is really devastating. If we still had those power fists, I'd be like, cool, charge me, I'm going to smack you back. But Obliterators don't anymore, so you kind of need that protection to help them. And that 24-inch gun, if they were like range 36, I'd be like, cool, set them up in the back. But 24 inches is not as far as we think in this game anymore. Last thing to note on this one is that they are demonic, so they can benefit, as far as I'm aware, from demonic abilities. Now, there's a comment, I've mentioned this before, and I think in my Warp Talent video, comment from Jessica Solel in my Possess video, which summarises some really good ways to get augments from demons into your Chaos Space Marines that have the demon rule. And fantastic comment from them on that, and I'd highly suggest that you go to the Possess video and have a look if you're interested in synergy between Chaos Space Marines and demons. I'm speaking about them in the Chaos Space Marine book. I'm not going to speak about them, alright, cool, and in other books that you can combine and make the whole bunch of lists. But if you are interested in sort of the demon rules affecting them, check out Jessica Solel's, I might have murdered that pronunciations, comment. If I was to say anything, I don't think Obliterators are going to benefit too much from demons. JC might comment on this and let me know what he thinks. I greatly appreciate it. Mainly because a lot of the augments are about sort of damaging in combat, and Obliterators don't really benefit from there. But they might get some good mobility ones, maybe. But generally, I think the demons are not going to benefit too much on Obliterators in terms of synergy. Let me know on that one, but certainly I'm talking in terms of Chaos Space Marine Codex. So yeah, with that, we're going to speak about Legion traits. Now, Legion traits do sort of favour combat quite heavily in some ways, which obviously, you know, Obliterators like, we're not about combat. But there is Legion traits that heavily do lean towards Obliterators and their use. With that, we'll speak about two of them. So the obvious one is Alpha Legion Hidden in Plain Sight. Your opponent must subtract 1 from hit rolls that target units with this trait if they are more than 12 inches away. You know it, you love it. So sure, you're going to have to get a bit closer, 24-inch range guns, but you really don't want to get any closer in this. -1 tit will help these guys, you know, survive a little bit longer. Now they do have an impressive save as it is, but any survival is always good. And as a ranged unit, you're not gearing for combat, so you want to keep that sweet 12 in, you know, over 12 inches away and just gun and take the -1 tit on them, which is nice. However, I find getting shot, you know, as I said, getting shot with these guys is not really a problem. Getting stuck in combat is. Any unit with a semi-decent armor save, or even horde units who can just hold these guys down, fundamentally shuts the unit down. So yeah, -1 tit, great, but it's mainly the people charging in and locking you down and nullifying Obliterators is your main problem. Iron Warriors, Siege Lords. Enemy units attacked with, by this unit with this trait do not gain a bonus to saving throw and cover. In addition, you can reroll wound rolls for units with this trait when they target a building. So although this may not help vehicle hunting too much, as you know, as much it will help taking out ground units, mainly because of cover, this will help them take out things like Devastators or Havocs, which love to be entrenched in cover. This will make it a lot easier. Also, with the new stratagem in the recent big FAQ, it will mean that, you know, if your opponent, you know, in the first round of combat, they're like, okay, cool, I'm going to give my full army, you know, cover, which means they get +1 save, and things like Predators and things getting, you know, a 2-up save is blooming, you know, terrifying. This will basically, you're going to be like, nah, no you don't, you can't use that stratagem in the first turn because I ignore cover. Unless you don't tell your opponent that's your Legion trait and they forget, and then they go, I'm going to use that Legion, you know, I'm going to use that stratagem. You're like, okay, cool, you use that 2 command points. And then it comes to you shooting, you're like, ignore it anyway. Don't be that guy. Be nice. Remind your opponent that that stratagem's no use here. Don't let them make that mistake. You know, don't be that guy. I've got a feeling in some cases there's going to be major complaints of people using that stratagem and then people going, cool, go ahead, I'm Imperial Fists or I'm Iron Warriors, cool, that's fine, spend 2 command points on something I ignore. Don't do that. Be a nice guy, be a nice person, remind them that you ignore that rule. Cool, so that's 2 Legion traits I think do help them. In terms of psychic abilities, Obliterators do benefit a wee bit from psychic abilities. Now, they are quite similar in Havocs in some ways, where they've got a similar sort of idea where they need sort of extra things to hit, but equally, Obliterators have a lot stronger survivability, you know, compared to Havocs, which is probably reflected in their points. What I'd say in that one is that, yeah, well, you might have survivability, but it's also good to have just more survivability. So let's start with Prescience. Warp Charge 7. If manifested, select a Heretic Stars unit within 18 inches of a Psyker. You can add 1 tit rolls made for that unit until the start of the next Psychic phase. This is really good for a group of Obliterators. Adding 1 tit and possibly a Lord nearby to reroll 1s means that you're all but assured to have those 12 shots connect instead of having like 3 miss or something. So yeah, really nice in these guys just to make sure, you know, all 12 shots, especially if they roll really well, connect and hit hard. Next one is Miasma of Pestilence. Warp Charge 6. If manifested, select a visible Nurgle Heretic Stars unit within 18 inches of the Psyker. Until the start of your next Psychic phase, your opponent must subtract 1 from hit rolls that target this unit. So it's kind of hard for me to say which one I like better than this or Delightful Agonies, which will go in a minute. But -1 to hit will certainly make their survivability go up. And Plasma love to target things with multi-wounds, though saying that, they have 3 wounds, so it means that every second, it takes 2 plasma shots to fell 1. Having Alpha Legion with the Marker Nurgle and, Hidden Plain Sight and Miasma Pestilence is -2 to hit, and Plasma is going to be terrified of that. So it does make a big, sort of target me at your own peril when you are targeting Obliterators. So I really like that -2 to hit potential when you do use Alpha Legion. Next one is Delightful Agonies, Warp Charge 6, Mark of Slaanesh only. If manifested, select a visible Slaanesh Heretic Stash unit within 18 inches of the Psyker. Until the start of your next Psychic phase, roll a d6. Each time a model in this unit loses a wound on a 5+, it does not lose the wound. Though you may be survivable with a 2+ save and a 5+ invul, this is slightly deceptive. The only time where the 5+ invul I think really shines is if something hits you with -4 AP, which there ain't much of in this game. Even if someone has -3 AP, it still brings you 3, 4, 5. Yeah, brings you to the 5+ save anyway. So 5+ invul was not the biggest save there. You're getting that unless they hit you with -4. And you are only toughness 4 as well. Really would have liked you to be in toughness 5, guys. Means that things like Plasma will still wound you. Most Plasma is strength 8. Means that Plasma will still wound you in 2+. So adding that 5+ to ignore wounds is going to help you ignore 1/3 of the wounds that do connect. So I think that's really, really important, and it does mean you get to remove a bit of the wounds. What's better between Miasma and Delightful Agonies? It's a difficult one in this one. Part of me says Delightful Agonies in this case. I think I said Miasma on Havoc's last time. Part of me is going for having the 5+ ignore on this one because they're multi-wound characters, so getting rid of that is kind of handy because a full unit has 9 wounds and 2+ save means they're super tanky as is, so having an extra save on top of it, ignoring 1/3 of the wounds, is kind of good. Next up I'm going to speak about stratagems. So here we go. What I'll speak about: Veterans of the Long War, 1 command point. Use the stratagem when Heretic Star's infantry or biker is selected to attack in the shooting or fight phase, excluding Renegade chapter units. You can add 1 to the wound rolls for units until the end of the phase. So I think this may be the last time I'm going to speak about this stratagem because I'm 90% sure just about everything that can use this stratagem I've discussed already. I may have to speak about Fallen at some point, which can use this, but I think everything else can't because I've no longer got infantry or bikers left. Yes. But yeah, this stratagem, always awesome. You're going to use it in plenty of Chaos Space Marine games. It's really, really good. Adding to wound rolls, you don't really see so much in this game, so having it as a fairly reliable 1 command point use is really, really good. Now, one thing I would say when it comes to Obliterators in this one, as far as I'm aware, this stratagem activates, when you choose a unit to attack in the shooting or fight phase, and their guns are determined at the same time. So in theory, you can go, right, cool, so first off, I'm going to select the unit and I'm going to work out their stats, because that's when you select them. So you work out their stats and you go, cool, that's really good. Maybe I didn't get a very good strength roll, or maybe I did amazing, and I just want to cause further damage. So you can go, I'm going to work out the guns stats, and then you go, right, still I've chosen to the unit, I'm going to also activate vets. And adding that sort of extra sort of reliability, because you don't really want to activate vets if you get 1 damage. Like if you get 1 damage, you're like, nah, I don't really want to waste vets. It's a great stratagem. But if you get 3 damage, -3 AP and high strength, you're like, yeah, cool, add vets and I'm going to annihilate wherever I touch. There has been changes in the FAQ, I know, to how you select unit. I think it's mainly in terms of how you choose your weapons, guns, and the target for them. I don't think it will affect this one too much. Let me know if I'm wrong, but I'm 90% sure you can do them at the same time in whichever order you want. So you can work out the strength of the weapon, work out its AP and damage, and go, right, cool, I'm happy to activate vets. Or you can work out the weapon and then go, no, I do not want to. Let me know if I'm wrong in that one. I am 90% sure I'm right, but it really does work quite well for you to work out the reliability of the Obliterators before you activate vets. But vets is amazing. Next up is probably one we all know, is Endless Cacophony / only cost 2 command points. Use this stratagem at the end of your shooting phase. Select a Heretic Stars infantry or biker unit. This unit can immediately shoot again. So this is a fantastic stratagem for ranged units. Being able to shoot twice means they can put out a mighty 24 shots, which augmented by Prescience and Vets, because both stay on. Prescience works till the next psychic phase. Vets work till the end of the shooting phase, which, although this may be the end, it's still part of the shooting phase, means it still gets augmented by it, though I'm pretty sure you still need to actually roll to determine how many shots you get. Well, not how many shots, but the strengths. This is a dangerous combination that can be truly devastating. So who does it work better for in combination? I'm probably going to go between Havocs and Obliterators here. Honestly, and this is me sort of getting to conclusion phase. Honestly, you know, because I'm going to speak about stratagem, also I favour Havocs. They may die easier than Obliterators, and you know, however, they have better range, they are cheaper, you know exactly where you're going to get with them, and they're easier to sort of screen, because Obliterators you might have to move forward. However, you know, I haven't actually played Havocs yet. I've got a huge amount of them, just need to get them painted, while I have used Obliterators plenty of times. And although one of my better moments with Obliterators was when I was facing David on Warhammer TV, and I destroyed David's Annihilation Barge in one round, which was awesome. Just saying. I have been let down by Obliterators a plethora of time. So when it comes to stratagem, and maybe in total, you know, if you're looking for reliability, Havocs, you know what you're going to get. Well, Obliterators are a bit more tanky, but they are still random in terms of the damage they are going to do. So I kind of mixed up the end of that stratagem there with my conclusion. There is sort of a point on whether to go with Obliterators and Havocs, and I think with the recent FAQ I am really beginning to lean towards Havocs in terms of the heavy support role, in terms of backline heavy firepower. Obliterators can be good, and they certainly can, but their random amount of ability, 3d3, you know, to work out their strengths is kind of difficult. I think I spoke about a wee bit on this when it came to spawns, and I said that I believe that a stratagem should be introduced to bring more reliability to the spawn unit, and someone did point out in the Thousand Sun Codex there is a stratagem that I think was 1 command point that allows you to choose their ability and reroll the amount of attacks they get, which is a bargain for 1 command point. And I think I said in the comments, a few guys mentioned it, which thanks for you mentioning it. I was really devastated that that didn't really make its way, you know, into the Chaos Space Marine Codex, and maybe the Death Guard one as well. It is a very Thousand Suns worded one, but it would make spawns far more reliable and far more of an option. Similar thing to this, you know, Obliterators and Mutilators. If there was a stratagem that allowed you to maybe, you know, you're probably going to use a command point to reroll one of the stats anyway, probably either AP or damage. Having a stratagem, I don't know what it could be, whether it be 1 command point, you can reroll all the results on one of your Obliterator units. You know, you have to do it when they are chosen to fire. Maybe it's 2 command points and they all set up to maximum, which is still really good. For 2 command points, maybe a bit pricey, but basically a stratagem that would make Obliterators and Mutilators at that point more reliable, I think would be absolutely key for you know, was it Cult of Destruction units in the future. So I'd love to see that in a future edition, just to give them a bit more reliability, and I think it would certainly help them as well. I would also mention that I'd probably love for them to get like Power Fists or some kind of AP combat capability, so it means that if they do get stuck in combat they can fight back a little bit better, but that might be asking a wee bit much for the price tag. So yeah, that is my thoughts on Obliterators. I might have been a little bit harsh on them, especially how I use them quite often. They can be useful, but their unreliability can also be very, very costly as well. Love to hear your thoughts on Obliterators. I've used them a plethora of times, so I'm very interested to hear what you have to say. Please Comment, share, like and subscribe, let us know what you think. And check us out on social media and Patreon where you can see what we're up to and also support the channel so we can bring you more content, which is always really, really nice because we love doing this. So yeah, thanks again, and we'll see you on another Tabletop Assault Battle Report.